Good afternoon, Year 6. I hope you're all well, and welcome to our final literacy lesson on first-person narratives. So this is the final time we're going to be writing a diary entry this term, apart from when you publish your work, if you decide to do so, before we move on to our next unit. Now, we're going to start today's lesson in a slightly different way, but before we do that, first of all, I'd like to say a big congratulations to all of those diary entries that appeared on Seesaw yesterday. I could see massive improvements in tense and punctuation, which was great, and just like all of your previous entries, you all managed to really keep in character and use language choices that would be in keeping in line with your character. Great job! I can't wait to see our final entries today. Now, before we start, I would like you to pause the video now and have a go at rewriting these sentences. After you've done that, we'll correct them. There are lots of mistakes in there, so let's see if you can spot every single one. Go. Okay, welcome back. So you should have paused the video and you should have rewritten out these sentences and corrected all of the mistakes. As we're going along now, I'd like you to tick every word that you've managed to get correct and upload your entries onto Seesaw. It's really important that I can see your do now entries today as well as your diary entries so we can see the mistakes that we may still need to practice. Okay, let's begin. Did you hear that I've just heard something strange for the second day in a row? I know that I'm going to require some punctuation here. Did you hear that? Well, that is a question by itself. So let's start from the beginning and then remember to add our question mark on after that. Did is spelled correctly with a capital letter, as is you. Did you hear that? Well, we're talking about a sound. Therefore, that is not the correct here. Here needs to be spelled like H-E-A-R. It's a homophone. Well done if you managed to get that one correct. Did you hear that? Question mark. Because you're asking, diary, if you just heard that sound. Capital letter for I've, and we're missing an E. We know that I've is a contraction. It's short for I have. And the apostrophe stands for the missing letters, which in this case are H and A. So I've just heard. Heard is another homophone, a less common homophone, but this heard refers to a herd of animals. So for example, a herd of sheep. If you're talking about heard when you heard something, then it's H-E-A-R-D. So it's the word hear with a D on the end of it. I've just heard something is spelled correctly. Strange for the second. When we're writing, we need to write the word second, so it would be S-E-C-O-N-D for the second day in a row, full stop. So hopefully you've managed to correct all of the errors in that first part. Well done if you achieved that. Now let's look at the second part of the sentence. No, full stop. It wasn't Max. Wasn't is spelt correctly apart from the missing apostrophe. I know that wasn't is a contracted word and it's made from was and not joining together. I must have the apostrophe in place to replace the missing letter. Was plus not makes wasn't without the O. Therefore, the apostrophe replaces the missing O that you would normally find in the word not. No, it wasn't Max biting a log, full stop, because we have the subject and the verb. It wasn't Max biting a log, that is one complete thought. So you could have had a full stop here and changed it to a capital letter, or you could have also used a semicolon. And if you used a semicolon there, it didn't need to be a capital letter. Why can you use a semicolon? Or why could you have used a semicolon, you might ask? Well, because both clauses make sense by themselves and they both link. It wasn't Max biting a log, it was something far more stranger than that. So let's continue and see if there are any more errors. It was, something is spelt correctly, far more stranger. Have a think. Why is more stranger not correct? We've had this one before when we were talking about another error, more faster. Yes, you're right. The prefix, or the suffix, sorry, not the prefix, prefixes are at the beginning of the word. The prefix er actually means more. Therefore, we don't need more and er at the end of the word. So you could have said it was far more strange and taken away the er, or I probably would have taken away the more and said it was something far stranger than that, and another full stop at the end. So well done if you've managed to correct those. Please put your edits on Seesaw. You could have used highlighters if you wanted to, and we will be giving that another go next week. Now, moving on to today's diary entry. It's our final diary entry, and you might be wondering right now, why does Miss Love have Con's diary entry from yesterday up? Have a think. Why am I about to share Con's diary entry from yesterday with you first? Yes, that's right, because it's so important that our writing remains cohesive and that one piece flows on from the next. So yesterday we talked about the threat or the suspicious sound or the suspicious sight that Con stumbled upon, or Fred stumbled upon, or Leela came across. And today it's really important that we remember that and we also include that in our writing. It wouldn't really work to come up with something completely different. We want to build on the threat and make it more severe each time, or more terrifying each time. This is our final entry then. So first of all, this will be our final entry then. So first of all, let's read back what she said yesterday. Ugh! I don't believe it. I've just seen something weird for the second day in a row. No, not Max Penis Pants, although that was pretty weird. Something even stranger. Then she went on to give more detail about the threat. So, I was just out fetching some wood for the campfire this morning. You've guessed it, diary. Any chance I get to get away from that lot, I take. When I saw a large wooden sword, I should have maybe said spear, I was thinking, when I saw a large wooden sword with dried blood in it sticking out from the ground. Anyway, I'm sure it's nothing, but I'll go back and have another look and report back. And then she gave an update further, or she gave an update a little bit further on, 12:26, so 26 minutes later. I'm back now, and I'm scared, seriously scared. Picture this. Me walking through the forest, minding my own business, when suddenly, boom! Out of nowhere I see a silvery silhouette, that means a shadow, of, well, I'm not really sure. It seemed like a ghost, but I don't believe in ghosts. That's so childish. I guess I'm probably still suffering the after effects from the crash. Fingers crossed, eh? And I love the way, Dia, at the end of yours, you directly addressed the diary and you said, keep your fingers and toes crossed for me, please. That was really effective. Well done. Now, we're moving on to our final day and we are building up the tension once more. She will now come across the clue or a little preview of the threat for the final time before, well, you'll have to decide what happens to her then. Or him, perhaps. Now, at the beginning of today's entry, I'm going to give it a title like I did yesterday, and I love the way some of you came up with lots of original titles too. Remember, I'm writing in the past tense or the present tense if I'm writing about my feelings. And I've decided to give Con's diary entry today the title, Will I Be Next? And you'll see that I've decided that my time is going to be 10 p.m. So I want Con to go back to her diary later on that night. It's really important that yours flows on, which is why you need to read back yesterday's. Yesterday's, she finished writing. Well, it wasn't yesterday's actually, it was earlier on today she wrote in it. We wrote in it yesterday. I finished at 12:26 p.m. After she'd went to check out the threat. And now I'm writing again at 10 p.m. After she hears or sees something, or after she goes once more to check it out. So, my first step to success today will be her going, well, the first thing I want to include is her feelings and thoughts after revisiting the threat. So going back to see what it was. Now, remember your tone here. If you're afraid, you might come across like, Diary, I'm so sorry, I can't believe I did it. Con might be slightly more apologetic. It's up to you. Con might blame the diary. You should have told me not to go back. You should have told me it would be dangerous. I can't believe you made me do it. Con might look for other excuses, or she might take a little bit of responsibility herself. So I've decided that this time she's going to take a little bit of responsibility for going herself, but I still want to make sure I get that sassy tone across. So I'm going to start by saying, I'm not going to say straight away I went back to see it. I want to build it up to that part, so I'm going to talk about her thoughts and feelings. I'm going to start by saying, I can't believe I'm saying this. I can't believe I'm saying this. I'm going to use a semicolon here because I want to link my next clause to the first clause that I wrote. I can't believe I'm saying this. I was wrong. For the first time in my life. Now, the reason why I'm starting with I was wrong is because in my previous entry I thought that I was still hallucinating, and now I believe that there probably is a threat and it's not hallucinations anymore, or it isn't at all. So therefore I'm saying I can't believe I was wrong. But I have managed to, even though I've admitted wrong, I have managed to still convey Con's character by saying I can't believe it. And it's, I've blurred that slightly. Hopefully you can still read it. Note to self, Miss Love, only underline underneath. And again, for the first time in my life, I was wrong. That shows you just what she thinks, just how much of a high opinion she has about herself. So, I can't believe I'm saying this. I was wrong for the first time in my life. Turns out, I'm going to imagine now that, Diary had suggested not going back, and obviously the diary can't suggest that, but that's just something in Con's head. She's talking to the diary as if it was a person. Turns out I should have, if I want to do the contracted version, which is more informal, I take away the H and the A and I replace it with an apostrophe. I should have listened to you. Turns out I should have listened to you and not bothered going back to the clearing. And turns out I should have listened to you and went back to the others. So this is the first time Con's starting to show a little bit of regret, actually. Turns out I should have listened to you and not bothered going back to the clearing. But in true typical Con style, I'm going to try and justify it. But I just needed to find out more, or I just needed to see what it was. But I just needed to find out what it was. And you can see that I'm using the empty word it there as well to not give too much away about the threat. But I needed to find out what it was. And besides, I'm trying to justify why she went alone. And besides, the others would have been way too scared to come with me. And the others would have been way too scared, with the two O's, too scared to come with me. Okay, that's her thoughts and feelings. I'm going to read back from the start now to see if I've conveyed those effectively. To come with me. I can't believe I'm saying this. I was wrong for the first time in my life. Turns out I'm actually going to use an exclamation mark there. Turns out I should have listened to you and not bothered going back to the clearing. But I just needed to find out what it was. And besides, the others would have been way too scared to come with me. So she's showing a little bit of regret, but she still has that sassiness. She's saying, I was wrong for the first time in my life, and the others would have been way too scared for me. But if you're Fred, you might say, you will come across as more vulnerable. You might say something like, but I just couldn't resist it, diary. I couldn't resist having another look over the edge. I know you told me not to. And I'm really sorry. I hope I don't live to regret my choice. So you will be coming across as a little bit more apologetic to the diary. And during this part, direct address to the diary is really effective. So remember, you can underline those bits in pink. Coco, I saw a great example of you pinking some direct address the other day, and Chloe as well in Kent class. Really well done. So turns out I should have listened to you is really effective use of direct address there. Okay, so she's expressed her feelings now, and now we see she's scared. Now she's going to tell the diary, what was it that she saw? What did she see? We need to be really careful in this part not to do the same threat as yesterday. There needs to be, or your threat must build on from yesterday. What did she see? She or he see or hear. So we probably, if you talked about a spear yesterday, you're not going to talk about another spear more than likely. Your threat needs to become more threatening. At this point in the diary, we almost need to feel like Con is about to lose her life, or Fred is. Okay, so let's have a look. What did she see here? Right, I'm going to start by saying then, let me read back my last sentence just to check that it flows on. But I just needed to find out what it was. And besides, the others would have been way too scared to come with me. So I need to make sure it flows, and I'm going to start by saying, it was all fine at first. It was all fine. It was all fine at first. But as I got closer, I need to think about what she's going to see that's more threatening. But as I got closer to the clearing, so as she gets closer, or as he gets closer to the place where they found yesterday's threat, what is the additional threat that appears? I'm going to say, it was all fine at first, but as I got closer to the clearing, I saw a message. Or there was a message. There was a message. Scrawled, I'm going to use the word scrawled there because I can imagine that it's something that's not written in very neat handwriting if it is a creature. There was a message scrawled on the forest floor in blood. And the reason why I've used on the forest floor in blood, the reason why I'm using in blood is because I want the reader now to think that Con really is in danger. And in blood implies that something has happened to another person previously. And as I said, the word scrawled is really effective because you're not writing neatly, you're writing on the forest floor. It's not like you're writing in a precious notebook. So a creature or somebody who was about to get her would be scrawling something perhaps. So I'm going to underline the choice of the word scrawled and in blood. And now I'm going to use a colon. to show what the message was. And I'm going to write it how I imagine she wrote it in her diary. I'm imagining that Con would have tried to replicate exactly what she saw on the forest floor. So I'm going to open the quotation marks. You're next, Constantia. I actually can't say her name. Constantia, I'm going to call her. Constantia. You're next, Constantia. And you can see I've written that in the way that I'm imagining it was written by the creature or the person on the forest floor. And Con is sharing exactly that with her diary. Now at this point, as Con, I'm going into ultimate panic. I've told my diary what the message was, and now I'm going to start asking some rhetorical questions that show just how terrified she is at this point. So I could say something like, what kind of creature would write something like that? However, I think that message, Con might not, she knows it's unnerving, she knows it's a frightening message, but she might not quite understand what it means. And she's probably more panicked by it than anything else. So I'm going to say, what does that even mean? What does that even mean? Who would write something like that? Who, or in brackets I'm going to write, or what would write something like that? Question marks for my rhetorical questions. So rhetorical questions build the suspense and quicken the pace. What does that even mean? Who or what would write something like that? And in true Con style, I'm going to add a third one in, and I'm going to say, and who dares call me by that name? Because we know how much she hates that. And who dares call me by that name? And you could say something like, they have the cheek, or they have some cheek, or you could maybe put a little humorous threat to them there at that point. Ugh. And to finish this entry, and who dares call me by that name? Ugh. So the suspense is building. I'm just going to take it back a little bit now, and I'm going to say, take a deep breath, Con. Take a deep breath, Con, because you can see just how panicked she was getting. So I want her to sort of talk to herself at the end, because you know a diary entry is us writing down our thoughts and feelings. So this is what she's thinking. Take a deep breath, Con, semicolon, everything will be. And it's at that point her pen was snatched out of her hand. It was that point that Con was no longer able to write in her diary. So if you can manage to do something like this, and you might want to handwrite your diaries today, then that would be really effective. I haven't given away too much, but the scribble lets me know that when Con was writing, the pen was grabbed from her hand, or she was grabbed. We don't know if it was a diary that was taken, we don't know if it was the pen that was taken, or if it was her. Let's read back our entry before we add a final paragraph from somebody else. Con's diary, day 4. I can't believe I'm saying this. I was wrong for the first time in my life. Turns out I should have listened to you and not bothered going back to the clearing, but I just needed to find out what it was. And besides, the others would have been way too scared to come with me. It was all fine at first, but as I got closer to the clearing, there was a message scrawled on the... But as I got closer, I might take away clearing there because I've said clearing up there, so I don't think I need to repeat that. As I got closer to where I was yesterday, you could say, I saw a message, or there was a message scrawled on the forest floor, in blood. You're next, Constantia. Now again, you might not say a message, you might say a pool of blood, another clue. You might say hair follicles, perhaps, from what looked like a human. You might say teeth. Something that implies something very bad has happened to another human, perhaps. Okay, so you don't have to say a message. That's just the one I've chosen to go with. You might see a ghost of somebody else. What does that even mean? Who or what would write something like that? And who dares call me by that name? Ugh! Take a deep breath, Con. Everything will be... And it is at that point, as I said, that Con writes her last entry in the diary. So, let's see what we're going to do now. I'm now going to write a different diary entry. And I'm going to change the time. So we were on 10 p.m. So the time is going to be 10:27 p.m. And I'm going to write from the perspective of, I'm going to write as another creature. I'm not going, or as another human. So I'm actually going to almost make fun of Con here, and I'm going to give it a title. At the start of Con's entry, she said, "Will I be next?" So I'm going to give it the title, "You Were Next." And that's almost, or "You Will Be Next." Well, I might actually say "You will be next," implying that nothing has actually happened to her yet. They've just got hold of the diary. Okay, and that's playing on the fact that Con wrote a title, that's making fun of Con's previous title. So, what am I going to say, and who dares call me by that? What were the questions? What was the message? Sorry, "You're next, Constantia." What does that even mean? Who would write something else? So, what's my message going to be? I'm going to say, in the writing that I saw on the forest floor. And I'm just going to leave a simple message that says, "You'll never have to worry. Have to worry." I'm going to try and link it back to what Con said in the diary. You'll never have to worry about someone calling you that name again. And that message is enough to show me that something dreadful has happened to her. You'll never have to worry about someone calling you that name again. And at the last point, it's the last sentence, I'm going to finish with a short sentence. "Sweet dreams, little girl." So it's up to you how you finish that off. And we haven't said too much. Whoops, my stuff can't spell little. We haven't said too much about what's happened to her, but you've given enough clues so that the reader can infer. Okay, let's read back once more then. I can't believe I'm saying this. I was wrong for the first time in my life. Turns out I should have listened to you, diary, could have said, and not bothered going back to the clearing. But I just needed, and I underline needed, to find out what it was. And besides, the others would have been way too scared to come with me. I'm also going to highlight that phrase because that is totally in keeping with Con's personality. Once more, she's being rude about the others. Hardly a surprise. It was all fine at first, but as I got closer to the clearing, or as I got closer to the spot where I was yesterday, I saw a message scrawled on the forest floor, in blood. You're next, Constantia. What does that even mean? Who on earth would write something like that? And who dares call me by that name? Ugh. Take a deep breath, Con. Everything will be... You'll never have to worry about someone calling you that name again. Sweet dreams, little girl. And your questions up here, when you write the rhetorical questions, you might be even more dramatic than mine. You might say, am I going insane? Does that mean I'm going to die? Am I about to take my last breath? Please help me, diary. You might be a little bit more panicked. Of course, Con, she's always thinking about herself. So one of her questions here is, oh, and who dares call me by that name? She's thinking about herself and her name. But you might come across as more scared at that point. Because certainly if I saw a message on the ground in blood that said, you're next, then I wouldn't be thinking about I wouldn't be thinking about my name. I'd be thinking about what their intentions were. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what you come up with today, team. And that is it. I can't wait to see these final entries, year 6. And I'm particularly looking forward to seeing if any, I'm particularly looking forward to seeing how you change person at the end. I really hope you've enjoyed our unit on diary entries. I've loved teaching you virtually, and it's been a real pleasure to read your work every single day. Next week we'll be starting a new unit, which will be a non-fiction unit, and I know you'll really enjoy that one too. I've got a little challenge if anyone has time over the weekend. Last year, some children in year 6, they published their diary entries on pieces of tea stain paper. You can imagine this isn't something that looks like, or this piece, you don't need to imagine, this piece doesn't look like something that's been in the Amazon rainforest, does it? So it would be great if some of you could use tea stain paper to publish these diary entries and make it look like this diary is something that Con or Fred or Leela has had in their pocket. You might want to annotate it with little drawings as well. If I'm writing Con's one, you'll still write her diary, but you might want to add in, oh, this is a picture of Max being annoying, or this is the boy who said everything would be all right, but he was wrong. You might put in some little rips or tears as well to show that it's not in very good condition, as you would expect after having been on a plane crash or fallen from a plane. And then being in the Amazon rainforest. So that's a little challenge. I'd love if anyone could publish all of their diary entries on some paper and post that on Seesaw for me to see as well. That is all that is left then, year 6. I can't wait to see them once more. Have a great rest of the day, and I will see you all on Seesaw. Bye.